Hello, welcome back. Welcome back, I'm Simon. This is Flight Pass. We're in the Huey. We're just over the village of Mont St Jean to the north of the battlefield of Waterloo. And in the last part, we were just discussing the charge of the Union Brigade, the Scots Greys, the Royals, and the Inniskillens as they charged. If we just zoom down here, we're in the modern form of cavalry, and they charged the divisions of Cuyo and Donzelay of d'Erlon's corps off this ridge here and streamed down this field here, and they completely lost control of their coordination and professionalism, and they rode up and up into these positions here where the French artillery were, and they get countercharged by Polish lancers, and Ponsonby is killed, and the whole cavalry is basically spent. Their horses are blown, and they're in complete disarray. But what they have done is stopped the French attack on this side of Wellington's position, his left flank and Napoleon's right. So if you're new to the channel, this is what we do. We use the helicopter, we fly around, we get to look at the topography of these battlefields, and we look at the distances people march and things like that, and it gives us a really good insight into how topography affected the decisions made on the day. We've done a series on D-Day, and we've done one, we're now doing one on Waterloo, and you'll see all these little postcards popping up, and you'll be able to click on those and go back and have a look to see the bits you've missed. It's chilled out, it's relaxed, it's flying, a bit of conversation, and you can join in a number of ways. If you have Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024, you'll find me on Europe West server. Come and join in, fly around with me. On Twitch, you can comment. You're my co-pilot, so you can essentially show me which button does what. You can look out for any terrain, so that's all your responsibility. And you can also request to see something, or correct anything you think I might have said wrong. This is a discussion, it's not a lecture, so it's if you are an expert on this, then please help out and point out any inaccuracies that I've made. I try to be accurate as possible, but mistakes happen. I fly live, and I talk. I do have notes, but a lot of it is just kind of trying to remember at the time. Anyway, and if you're on YouTube, then again, please like, subscribe, comment, and even if you do comment when you've watched it and it's even a few years down the road, in a future stream, I will mention that comment. Don't worry about it. Okay, so we essentially get to this point where it's almost like the end of the phase 2. And let me describe a guy. Let me just pause here and grab this book. It's a book called The Campaign of 1815 by Henri Husset, and he describes in this book that it was a harrowing sight to see the English cavalry breaking through and slaughtering these fine divisions as if they were flocks of sheep. Intoxicated with slaughter, inciting each other to kill, they pierced and cut down the miserable masses with glee. The columns were shattered and divided, scattered and hurled to the slopes by the swords of the dragoons. So that is Hussey's description of this moment. And Hussey is an interesting historian because he's a French historian, so he has a French perspective. Incidentally, at this time as well, it's believed that the rockets, Win-Yates rocket battery fires 52 rockets, basically in an attempt to cover the cavalry, try to scare the horses of the lancers that are attacking the Union brigade. But the rockets are believed to, when they were fired, were pretty inaccurate, and they didn't do any actual damage. But they were, I believe, off the top of my head, they were positioned on the road here, just essentially near to Wellington's elm tree. I'm just looking here. I'm reading some notes from another historian called Naylor, and he basically corroborates most of what we've just been talking about. But he does mention his belief that the D'Erlon's attack came really closer than any other attack during the day to defeating Wellington. Here, and so this probably explains why Wellington doesn't want to criticize Uxbridge, especially when Uxbridge loses his leg later on nearby to Wellington. But this is just goes to show how close this fight got. Now, I do know at this point as well that Picton picks up his injury. I'm just trying to find out when that was. From Napoleon's point of view, it appears you've got to remember that Napoleon is back here at the Ronson farm, and it appears to him that the French have achieved the ridge just before the charge. And I'm just seeing here that there's mention that Donzelot's men were allowed to advance almost to the hedge that ran along the road before Picton ordered his division to rise and move forward. So if we just pause here, let me just see if we can look at that situation. So we got we're talking about over here. Now Donzelot was sort of the second layer of the echelon, probably moving up over here. and they mention they get to the hedge of the road. So we're talking they're allowed to be here, essentially, before. So we're talking that these British are in this area here, and they stand up essentially when the French arrive at this point. There's a description here as well. As once the Pictons ordered his men up and to fire, he then orders them to charge in the French. And they forced Donzelo's men before them. So we've obviously got a combination then of troops being routed by the impact of the musket fire, and also a charge from this angle over here. And it's at this point as well, it's believed that Picton is killed, and he's killed essentially around somewhere here. In fact, these could well be memorial stones, literally on the ground. So I wouldn't be surprised if one of these would be something to Picton. And he's shot essentially through his temple. And Captain Horace Seymour, he was the aide-de-camp to Uxbridge. He says at this point, he says, and I quote, "At the moment Sir Thomas Picton received the shot in his forehead which killed him, he was calling to me to rally the Highlanders, who were for the instant overpowered by the masses of French infantry who were moving up to their right of the high road." And that was a letter in 1842. So I wouldn't be surprised if something like this is Picton's memorial. If anybody knows, then please let me know. There seems to be several of these down here. So I'm not sure what they could be. Well, Seymour goes on to describe the point. He says, "It's on the crest of the position near the hedge and immediately over an excavation of either gravel or stone." So since this is the actual gravel pit here, then it seems like it's in this area would be a good spot for where Picton was killed. So the sequence of events, it seems to be that the columns come up, Picton orders his men up, and they're in line, they fire, they then charge, but the French are also trying to, they've paused and they're trying to get into a line, and that's when the cavalry sweep in. And it's believed that the Highlanders were in this this time was just doing this sort of about to charge when the Uxbridge throws his cavalry into the struggle, and presumably they come through here. So in the charge of the Scots Greys, that's when you get Sergeant Erwert, who captures the standard of the 45th Regiment. And there's a quote here, it says, "It was in the charge I took the eagle from the enemy. He and I had a hard contest for it. He made a thrust at my groin. I parried it off, cut him down through the head. After this, a lancer came at me. I threw the lancer off by my right side and cut him through the chin and upwards through the teeth. Next, the foot soldier fired at me and then charged me with his bayonet, which I also had the good luck to parry, and then I cut him down through the head. Thus ended the contest. And as I was about to follow my regiment, the general said, "My brave fellow, take that to the rear. You have done enough till you get quit of it." And then I took the Eagle to the ridge and afterwards towards Brussels. So Ponsonby is involved in this charge, and I remember he was killed in this attack, and his horse becomes trapped. This is an example as well about the conditions in this area. Now we're not sure if it's down here. It may also be in this area here. Probably more likely to be here. Ponsonby's horse basically gets stuck in the mud. He describes, or it's described that the mud, the area around here had been recently ploughed, and it was from the rain was so deep, the mud, the horse gets stuck, and that means he gets killed by lancers before he could get his horse out. So in this cavalry attack, Wellington's lost around about a quarter of his cavalry, who have been blown out and lost. And like I said before, it does stop the attack on this side. We get to around about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and a lull now occurs along in the battle. On the far side, the Battle of Hougoumont still rages. And this is when 3 companies of infantry are moved down to Hougoumont, and Jerome starts using howitzers against the buildings. And just a little bit more about the cavalry charge here. And there's 2 Ponsonbys involved. Lieutenant Colonel Sir Frederick Ponsonby survives. He describes the charge. He describes how the 12th Prince of Wales Light Dragoons gave support to General Ponsonby to try to extract them from their predicament. He says, "I know we ought not to have been there, and that we fell into the same error which we went down to correct. But I believe that this is an error almost inevitable after a successful charge." As I say, this is when it is a lull, and of course one of the fundamental parts, because this now the threat almost on Wellington's left flank is diminished, means that Wellington can start contracting his lines and bringing them into this sort of central area here. So the situation is still under control for Wellington. For Napoleon, obviously he's been set back. He's lost thousands of men on his right flank. He's not achieved the ridge on the right-hand side. Yes, he's reduced the cavalry element of Wellington's army, but he's not essentially forced Wellington to move any reserves from his centre to his left flank. He still has La Haye-Sainte in the middle that hasn't been taken as well, and he still hasn't taken Hougoumont. And so what's actually happened? Well, essentially the fundamental part of this part of the battlefield at this time, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, is that Wellington has now bought himself more time, and more time for the Prussians to be arriving on his left flank. Uxbridge later would say, in a letter in 1842, he would talk about Wellington and his orders, and Uxbridge just said that he felt that he had been given carte blanche on this day. And when he was asked about the British cavalry charge in this area, he wrote in a memo that I think this must be something to do with Siborne's research. He just said that the plain appeared to have been swept clean. Major General Sir Hussey Vivian, he would later describe this in 1839 as one of the most important features of the battle. Major Thornhill of the 7th Hussars, he was an ADC to Uxbridge, and he just would describe the orders that Uxbridge gave to his brigades as to act discretionally under certain limitations. So we've got a counter cavalry charge over here, the cuirassiers. That was described by Lieutenant Weymouth. He was of the 2nd Life Guards. He said the brigade and the cuirassiers came to the shock like two walls in the most powerful lines. So you could almost say that this sort of cuirassier counterattack here kind of instigated the whole attack, that then moved into the attack onto the infantry, that then moved into the attack on the battery, that then was blown and then was counter attacked by lancers. By the way, all these letters that we're getting, they're all about Lieutenant Siborne, and he was tasked with coming up with a model of the battle. And it was around about in the 1840s, and it's very well described in this book called Wellington's Smallest Victory by Peter Hofschrauer. And so you get all these. This is when all these letters have been sent to him to try and ascertain what happened and where, and he was trying to figure out when to, what time to represent his model. And so this is why we get a comment here from Lieutenant Weymouth. He says to Siborne, he says, if you succeed in giving a tolerably correct representation, it is all you can expect. So it's that thing about the cuirassiers moving into the infantry, moving into the battery. Sub-Lieutenant Thomas Martin, he was of the 2nd Life Guards. He describes the charge. He says, he says, after passing through the cuirassiers, we found ourselves in the midst of a routed body of French infantry. So that sounds like the French were already routed. So maybe we're in this area and possibly in here. The French here had already started to break. He says many of them threw themselves to the ground till we had gone over, and then rose and fired. And that was in a letter that he had written in 1834. Major General de Lacy Evans, he writes that the enemy fled as a flock of sheep across the valley, quite at the mercy of the dragoons. In fact, our men were out of hand. The general of the brigade, his staff, and every officer within hearing exerted themselves to the utmost to reform the men. But the helplessness of the enemy offered too great a temptation to the dragoons, and our efforts were abortive. And he says he saw Sir William Ponsonby's charge of the guns. We remarked that those brave men be furnished with spikes and acquainted with their use. Several of the guns of the great battery could have been rendered useless for the rest of the day. So he's kind of saying that it's all very well trying to attack these positions here, presumably around about this place here. But if you've not got anything to spike the guns, then they'll just be used again. And de Lacy Evans would describe the French lancers. He says, if we could have formed 100 men, we could have made a respectable retreat and saved many, but we could effect no formation and were as helpless against their attack as their infantry had been against ours. Right. So we get to this lull in the battle, and this will be a good place to wrap this up for today. And we're at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and the battle for Hougoumont is still raging, and there's battles for La Haye-Saint. d'Erlon's corps has come up here and has been repelled by Picton's divisions and then run off the battlefield by the Union Brigade of Uxbridge and Ponsonby, who in turn are destroyed by the Lancers. And so this side here, there's essentially a stalemate has occurred in the battlefield. There seems to be a recuperation going on, but Wellington's left flank has held essentially, and this means that Wellington now has less of a threat from his left. He's got rumours of and he knows of the Prussians are coming, and he can now tighten his lines. So on that note, we shall leave it there, and I'd like to thank you for watching and taking part today. And I hope you've enjoyed this. If you've got any comments, please leave them behind. We will come back again tomorrow and carry on this discussion, and we'll move around and start talking about the approach of the Prussians from the east. We've got to give Prussians their due for the success of this campaign, and that will be tomorrow. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. If you've got any suggestions or want to help with the way that this channel works, then leave your suggestions in the comments below. I haven't been using the helicopter much today because we're so concentrated in one part of the battlefield, but we will use the helicopter a lot more when we start talking about the Prussians. Right, okay, so that is me waffling on. Thank you, Guy. Thank you that you're enjoying the story. It is one of the most fascinating things ever. I've been hooked on this subject since I was probably around about 12 years old, and every time you come back to this story, you just get more and more details. And being able to see this battlefield in such detail using this helicopter is great. I could use Google Earth. I know someone said you could use Google Earth, but it's not as fun as flying a helicopter at the same time. Right, please give a like for all those people on Twitch. We're currently at about 76 followers, and we are around about 30 subscribers at the moment on YouTube. And if you want to really support the show, then go to Spotify and listen to the work of E. Paraton, or you can even go to Bandcamp and you can buy it. And this is the music you will be hearing as I go into the breaks. Okay, on that note then, I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.